He enters the tavern, and sharp eyes lock on like knives. Once he calls out for Wild Jack, the rowdy cowboys freeze up. That name alone silences the entire saloon, but nobody expects that at this moment of high tension, a pathetic kid, totally out of breath, bursts in, unaware of the danger. It's Scott, the street sweeper once looked down on by the whole town, who chased him here to learn the gunfighting skills of Frank Talby. He wants to stop being bullied. Frank looks stunned. A fight is near, so why is the kid here, causing trouble? No time to scold, so Frank gives Scott his third lesson, but the kid is clueless, freezing in fear as he checks the door for any sign of danger. He thinks Frank is joking, so he naively takes a seat, his worship never fading, as if the room's tension could never touch him. He carelessly picks up leftover bread to eat, ignoring the cowboy's hostile glares. In his eyes, only the mentor who can change his life matters. Frank looks both weary and amused. Suddenly, the ruthless Wild Jack walks in, and Frank didn't travel all this way for nothing. He's here to collect a massive debt of $50,000. Wild Jack spent 10 years in jail for gold that had long ago been split by some men in the town of Clifton. Now he's broke and can't pay a cent. The name Clifton makes Scott perk up instantly. That's the town where he suffered for years, so he listens closely, trying to pick up any tricks from Frank. He studies Frank, learning how to resolve things. To get his money back, Frank tells Jack to go to Clifton, grab his share of the gold, and repay him. But Wild Jack is hesitant. Jack is a wanted man in Clifton, so he's terrified to go back. Frank has to travel to town to settle it himself, and this intense debt collection finally comes to an end. Wild Jack wants to toast to ease the tension, but Frank is cautious of a trick and refuses to celebrate with him. He says they'll celebrate once he has the money, so Jack, afraid to cross him, backs off and turns to the others instead. But Scott, feeling protected by Frank, actually refuses the drink. Back then, if anyone offered a drink, he'd gulp it down, scared of offending people. But now, he stands tall and dares to say no to anyone. Watching this, Frank's face darkens, and he silently bows his head. Wild Jack assumes they are just friends, so he grabs Scott and beats him. His sheer ruthlessness is meant to show Frank what he can do. Poor Scott becomes a punching bag, taking blow after blow. But just as Jack is about to finish him off, Frank finally steps in to stop it.
That's enough, Wild.
Actually, Frank held back to let Scott witness the cruelty of the West. There is no real pity, only the law of the jungle, where a mistake costs you your life. Jack is steaming, but knowing Frank's reputation, he forces himself to stop and lets it go. Frank walks up and slaps Scott across the face. Scott's stunned. They are lost. Lesson 4. Frank says, strike first or suffer. Through cruel tests, Scott sheds innocence and weakness bit by bit. Frank then demands the list of men who split the gold. Wild Jack loads his gun and then slowly reveals the 4 names to him. Banker Turner knew the route. Judge Carter judged the case. Maury drove the gold train, and Bill was in command of the entire operation. Bill also has a nearby farm, so Frank decides to pay him a visit, but something feels off. Frank shoots Wild Jack down, and Scott rushes over. Seeing the bloodied man lying there, he feels sympathy, despite the brutal beating he suffered just a moment ago. As Jack pleads for his life, Scott lets his heart get the better of him and tries to stop Frank, begging him to show some mercy. He begs for mercy, but in this tough dog-eat-dog world, showing any weakness will put you into an early grave. Cold Frank shocks Scott. He finally realizes that if he wants to be a feared gunman in the West, he can't be soft. Frank's 5th lesson: mercy shown to an enemy is cruelty to oneself. It comes too fast for Scott. The once simple street sweeper is now slowly shedding his innocence, transforming into a man who is cold and hard. And Frank, his mentor, is ready to show him an even darker, more ruthless side of the West. Frank arrives at the farm, but instead of the usual noise, a deathly silence makes him wary. Years of instinct make him alert. He enters cautiously. Room empty. He finds legs dangling from the beams. Bill is already dead, his body hung in the air. It is clear that someone knew he would show up here. A warning rings out.
If you make a move, you're a dead man.
A warning sounds. Frank turns, seeing 3 of Wild Jack's men lurking. He is the next target. Facing 3 dark gun barrels, even a master like Frank must surrender, watching from the shadows to find a chance to strike back. But he never expected that these men had no intention of giving him any room to fight, so they tie him up, toss his gun far away, and drag him across the rough, rocky road. Sharp sand and rocks tear right through his chest and clothes. He realizes this is no simple job, but the men finally bring their horses to a halt. A mule appears in the distance, and Frank is already battered and covered in wounds, but his eyes still stare down the three men with a fierce gaze. Nobody notices Scott, who is watching from the brush.
Oh.
Frank shoots them down before they can react. Scott sprints over. Seeing Frank's bloody chest, he truly panics. To him, Frank was an unstoppable legend. Seeing a legend suffer such a brutal fate, he doubts. If his master falls, how can a nobody like him ever survive in the Wild West? Frank gives lesson 6. Don't miss your chance. Then comes the 7th lesson, and a silent understanding passes between them. After the final lesson, they lock eyes, sharing a look that seals their partnership. Frank finally decides that Scott should stick with him, but he still warns the kid about the dangerous life of a gunfighter. Scott doesn't care about the danger, because he knows this life couldn't possibly be worse than the days of utter humiliation he endured back in the town of Clifton. They ride back into Clifton together. Walking down those familiar streets, it's clear that Scott is truly no longer the pathetic, broken street cleaner that he used to be in this town. Frank takes him to the general store to buy him his very first real revolver. Living his dream of a gunfighter, Scott trembles, takes the revolver, happy as a child with a toy. Frank adds a leather holster, and Scott excitedly straps it on. No more wooden guns. This gear costs $50, a huge sum for the poor kid. This price is unimaginable for poor Scott, but this object can lift him from his low life and give him true dignity, so he truly cannot stop staring at it. Frank pays without hesitation, clearly showing his acceptance of Scott as his new student. Frank shows him the ropes, patiently helping him adjust his stance and aim before he finally takes his first real shot at the target. Scott fires off every shot, excited. Scott turns around, thinking he never missed, but Frank was the one hitting them from behind. Scott is shocked, eyes full of awe, now set on mastering guns. Frank teaches him shooting tips. Don't rush, there are no shortcuts. The gunfire attracts the town sheriff, who arrogantly warns Frank to leave, as the dead cowboy's friends will certainly not let it go. Frank scoffs, saying he could hire guns, but no one in the town dares to follow him. Scott steps up to defend Frank, but the sheriff insults him again. Frank's face darkens, warning the lawman not to start trouble, or he'll surely end up just like the last dead cowboy. Frank hires Scott on the spot, so the sheriff has no excuse to force them out. From now on, they will join forces to clean out Clifton and take back their dignity and their gold.